Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to the Teacher's Lounge, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast featuring myself, Jeremy Franklin, and I'm joined by, as always, Ryan Miles over there.
I'd like to use this opportunity of the intro to express to you how upset with you I am because you didn't count me down so I could go. But I am joined by the lovely Josh Patton.
Oh, I'm second. Oh, shit. And I am joined by the beautiful Brandon Bremont.
And I am joined by you three kings.
Aww.
I love being here.
Thanks for being here, buddy. As always, hopefully you're surviving on the front lines.
You're saying the word always, but like I'm remembering that like there's been a couple weeks we've been stood up.
Yeah, that's true. The past 2 weeks we have been stood up by Ryan Miles because he first week was playing Runeterra and forgot about us, and the second week I don't know because he never told me why he didn't show.
I told you one time I had to talk to some girl like aggressively,
yes.
you know?
Lady.
Somewhere along the way, he got these sexy glasses.
So as always, before we get into it, I do want to say thank you guys so much for being here and joining us tonight. If you do like what we're doing here and want to support us, we know this is a weird time, but if you still feel like supporting us, you can go ahead and click that join button down below. It is the easiest way to support what we do. It's just a minimum of $1 or $2 a month. You get access to the private chats, the membership chats, and all the other good stuff that comes with it. And there's higher tiers and stuff too. Obviously, all of our video content will always be free, but if you want access to that cool stuff and support what we do to help us get to events and purchase new equipment, we always appreciate it. It's also the easiest way to directly interact with us because that's where we keep the chat. So, with that little bit out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's topic. Last week, we tried to play some games. Josh and I tried to play some games and failed miserably. Since then, we have fixed some stuff, but it brought up an interesting idea of we are now really in the middle, or at least like really in it, of what we're currently dealing with the world in the United States with this virus stuff. Specifically, so I want to talk about is kind of how we're all doing and how it's impacting card games and stuff and kind of what we're doing in that time, and if we've come up with any cool ideas of how to still scratch that itch, and then reminisce a little bit about kind of our histories with Force of Will and what has been kind of our favorite formats over the course of time, whether it be the fan formats, New Frontiers, Wanderer, any particular tournaments that stood out, any particular deck. Just kind of some time for us to share that together and keep ourselves company for an hour. So
what a great topic. I already love this.
Yeah. In keeping with the ruler school theme, tonight's topic title is Empty Campus Full Lounge, because we've sent all of the students home, but the teachers are hanging out together.
Good job staying on theme, Jeremy.
On brand.
Fantastic.
So
that's good.
Let's talk about it. How you guys been holding up with your card game itch? Because I'm going insane.
Okay, so great thing. Legends of Runeterra, not affected by the virus at all.
That's
so
true.
you can just continue to grind that indefinitely. So I've been on a real Runeterra kick. Been playing that like nonstop. I find time for Untap games. Sometimes Untap has been, I think everyone knows, a little bit
I think it's
atrocious lately.
I think currently it's down actually.
Yeah, it's been problematic.
I was playing on it yesterday, but like by playing, I mean I was doing 3 turns and then it would crash. So, but
yeah,
that was annoying. But like we've been trying to get some stuff in there, doing a lot of theory crafting, a lot of thought experiments with Force of Will, and it really is a shame that Untap has to be down during this time, because this format's been pretty fun from my perspective. It's got some pretty interesting constraints, some pretty interesting decisions you can make, and it doesn't feel like anything's really tier 0, which is good. So it's been a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah, I agree. Even the theory crafting discussions and stuff that I have been able to obtain, you know, the statement holds true that no deck in this format is unbeatable, and any deck can high roll you. Like that just that exists. And to me, that kind of almost makes it a lot more fun, because like I haven't sat down across from a deck, and Josh and I can attest to this when we were testing stuff out last week. I sat down across with the starter deck Melgus against Adam, and then suddenly I was like, oh, whoops, I got high rolled. Like, even the starter deck Melgus deck can suddenly just high roll an Adam deck. And to me, that kind of makes it more fun because there's always that uncertainty in the matchups and certainty in the games that like keeps you engaged. So it really is a problem about why Untap is down. But thankfully, Dennis in the Force of Will Face-Up community has updated Lackey, completely cut it up with a new plugin that has all the way up through AO2.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, someone sent me the Lackey plugin. I was literally asking about this all day, like 2
Yeah.
days ago, and no one had it.
So we'll.
Didn't you jump on? Didn't you jump on our stream while we were doing the Rogue Skill thing? You saw us on Lackey?
I did, but I kind of just figured that was like a Rogues Guild plugin or something. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
no, it's a
use
public
Brave
plugin,
plugin,
so,
right?
You guys don't remember freaking Brewhouse and they're like exclusive.
I
Lackey
yeah.
remember.
plugins?
Time to reminisce, boys. To Brewhouse.
The brew house. We'll work to get you guys the link. I'll have to see if I can quickly bring it up and put it into the chat here, or if one of you guys can.
I don't have it.
Or we'll get it shared out. But yes, there is a way for people to. We have seen Lackey get updated, and Lackey is pretty stable, so that is at least a good way to play. It's not necessarily as easy to understand as Untap. It's got a lot of like finickiness to it, but in terms of like the stability of the game itself, the stability of the servers, it's proven itself to be very solid during this time. So
Yeah,
It's
like
also
I really enjoyed
low-key
playing on it. The only problem that I had was streaming on it. Like it's like we've been so used to Untap at this point that like everything is very easy to just watch and spectate and be able to like commentate and really get involved. But like had a very difficult time doing that with Lackey because we couldn't figure out the way to get everything shown to the spectators. You know what I mean? So like even Graveyard was concealed. I couldn't see graveyards, and I didn't know Lackey enough to figure out like how to get around that. So
Well, and the other thing, and then this is like kind of a shallow thing, but Lackey is also just like super ugly. So like as far as like watching the Rogue
very
Skill
ugly.
stream, I'm like obviously the Rogue Skill people are great at their content production, but like I literally could not watch that stream because Lackey is just that ugly. Like
That's
Yeah,
one of the
no,
main
and
reasons
I felt
prefer
that way.
Untap as well. It's just Lackey visually does not do it for me. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to even have it display all the information you want, even as a player. Because like how many cards in your opponent's hand is not readily available unless you like pull open the sidebar with like and pull up your opponent's information.
Right.
Like, instead of spectator issues, like a lot of things are just concealed by default that really shouldn't be.
You have to know the exact card when you're building this deck.
Yep.
No guessing. No,
No
like, oh, I
searching.
know this one word's in there. It ain't the first word. You
It's
ain't finding that card.
It seems a lot more hotkey dependent, where Untap does have hotkeys, which is cool, and Lackey has hotkey customization, which is cool. But in general, like Untap is just a bit easier your first time using it. And then if I want to tell someone, hey, play me online on Enforceable, they're like, cool, how do I do that? I'm like, oh my God, please use Untap. Because if you download Lackey, first of all, you have to download it. Second of all, getting the cards on it is like, oh. And then like everything compounds where it's like, I do think Lackey has a lot of features that are better than Untap, but personally, I'm just an Untap like shill because of the ease of access.
Yeah,
but
for
yeah,
sure.
with
I
servers
used
down,
to
it's
be
like
a Lackey shill, and I was shown the light. Like I really was.
the other thing that I would recommend for people is that I've had some success with. I will attest that a lot of this is for people like myself who own separate webcams. But to kind of show you guys, pardon me for seasickness. So,
oh
God.
God.
So you can see I have this little camera mount. Oh God. I have this camera mount up here that can be used to show a overhead view of a playmat space. And you can do this with any USB-based webcam. You can do it with webcams that are built into like laptops and stuff too. It just gets a little bit wonky with being able to see your own screen if you only have one monitor. Josh is another clear example of being able to do this.
Just turn it down.
Turn it down. If you have Discord, Skype, Facebook video, kind of. I definitely recommend that if you're like me and you have the itch to like actually shuffle your cards, that you try to find people to play that way. It is a little bit inconvenient. You have to track things a little bit differently and kind of communicate pretty actively. Like you're going to be asking your opponent like, hey, what is this card? Because you just can't quite see it well enough or anything else. So it's a little bit more communication heavy. But it is definitely something that you can do. all in all, I think what I'm trying to say is there are ways to continue to play Force of Will during this
There
time.
are.
And so please, I mean, if you have questions about it, feel free to hit us up. If we can help you in any way, shape, or form with that, or if you want to jam some games with us, hit us up. We're probably going to try to do maybe a night of playing games with people.
Hell yeah.
So we're gonna go into a bit of a reminiscence here, but can I just bring Ryan back to the 2017 Worlds in Japan when we sat in front of EG and he showed us the battle simulator that was going to be coming?
I was there too. Excuse me. I was also there.
Can you imagine having a battle simulator right now? Where did it go?
Remember when it was supposed to be like open sourced so that players could continue to work on it, and it just never was.
And it never happened. I mean, that's the company that designed its fault. That's not EG's fault.
Yeah.
Sure, but like, God, like, could you imagine having a battle simulator right now?
Do we have any coders? Do you have any coders right now?
I mean, we have a couple. They've always kind of chirped in and been like, "Hey, yeah, if I got some free time, I'll do it." Like, we just can't get the program in their hands to do it, right?
Yeah. Somebody just needs to take the Yu-Gi-Oh battle simulator framework and just repopulate it to be Forza Will.
Well, I mean, I know Toby's already downloading and working on everything for Tabletop Simulator,
which is
I've never used it. But...
It's a prettier Lackey.
Is
kind of the best way to put it. It's like the prettier Lackey.
I really don't like Tabletop Simulator. I've used it for a lot of stuff. It's not a great program.
It's very embellished and very unwieldy. A lot of the same issues. Like he's saying it's a prettier Lackey. Like a lot of the just moving cards around sometimes can be a bit complicated.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, again, you have people in the community who are trying to do stuff, which I think is to kind of show that like during this time that we're dealing with, there are people who are motivated. There are people who are motivated to want to play, and so like you find
it took
to do
1 week. 1 week of bitching of like, man, I wish Lackey was up to date, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, Lackey's up to date.
I have this box of cards, and I want to shuffle them and play card games with people.
Speaking of itches, last night my wife and I played Monopoly 1v1, I found myself in. Do what?
I'm sorry for you.
I have
Dude, no, 2 hours. Like 2 hours. That was it. Game over.
That sounds like a good time or not.
Those games do not go long because of how bad it is.
No, it was awesome. So like, but I found myself like, I kind of like shrunk into like my TCG stance sometimes, and then like I realized like I was like shuffling my pile of money for a little bit, like while I'm watching my wife roll, like
that was like exactly
my pink 50s. And I'm just like, I remember like looking at her like this, like, like, you really want to buy Boardwalk right now? You really want to buy Boardwalk?
Money,
I don't know.
Properties on board. Properties on board.
Yeah. No. She's like, I don't know if I want to buy this. I was like, well, if you buy that, I'll trade you this for it. And she's like, oh, that sounds good. I'm like, yeah, it'll be a good trade. Like,
for one of us.
Yeah, that resolves.
That trade resolves. Oh, jeez, Louise.
So,
this is what happens when you take card games away from card game players. We find it in everything.
So what I've been doing is I've been doing a bit of Runeterra, like Brandon was saying, and I'm sure Jeremy, you've been playing it as well.
For sure.
My thing with Runeterra is that I'm pretty good at card games, so I hit like the highest rank pretty quickly, and then since then it's like, you can keep playing if you want to get a higher rank. And I'm like, but I'm already the highest rank. They're like, yeah, but you're number 50. And I'm like, well, do I get something for being like number 5 instead of 50? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. So Teamfight Tactics came out, and like the auto battler genre is like the cousin of trading card games. I don't even know how to describe it.
Teamfight Tactics. I love it.
I completely skipped set 2 of Teamfight Tactics, and now they're on set 3, and it came out, and I was like, it's on mobile now. I guess I'll pick it up again. And now I've been putting in like at least 5 games a day, and I'm like, I need to get to the highest rank in this too, so I can drop it like a hot potato. Like I've just been grinding that a lot. But yeah, in terms of card games, Runeterra has been kind of my fix. I do a podcast with my brother. It's called Lore Brothers Call. If anyone wants to check that out.
Enjoy that.
Nice plug.
Awesome.
Your brother did a cool video today on it where he like
did it. That shit was so good.
Commentated a story based on a live match of Runeterra. I was like, dang, dude, that was sick.
he kept talking about this
he was
lore
playing
thing he wanted
against
to do.
he was playing against Derek. So
Yeah. He just like we have like he just like messaged Derek and he's like, hey, I need to do I have a video idea. Just like play me with like a Freljord deck or a Demacia deck. And he's like, sure, okay. And then we're like, we know he wants to do some lore thing, but didn't know exactly what it was. And now it's like this, like the writing for that was just insane. I'm
yeah,
like,
it was really sick.
I'm like, it's so good. Like it's not really something that I would like seek out or consume, but I know that that's like the jam for a lot of people, and I think it'd be really cool. If you like lore and card games, check it out.
So like I know nothing about Legends of Runeterra or anything of that, but like that actually kind of shows a lot to like probably the talent of your brother to be able to just know that like a matchup plays out a certain way X amount of times and is like repeatable enough that like he could kind of pre-write this script and then just kind of plug in, drop like maybe a little bit of variable in there.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know how he did it.
Dude,
I don't know.
I think he
like,
played the game
scope
and
of
wrote
it.
the story afterwards.
I think so. And then it was like it was
you
just
think
good.
so?
Yeah.
But he had the idea before it, right? So like
Yeah.
there was already some shell of an idea.
Yeah, he's like, you play Demacia because it's got this champion. I'll play Freljord because it's got this champion, and then we're just gonna see what happens, and I'll just write over it and narrate it. And it was like, all right, that sounds like a really weird idea. And you see the video, and you're like, that's good.
Yeah,
That's real good. What's going on here? It's crazy. But yeah,
so
Interesting.
let's go ahead and transition because we're already talking about all the feel good stuff. So let's
all the feel good stuff.
Let's transition to this reminiscing period. I do want to start with this though. Before we get into the reminiscing, is when did you guys? We've maybe talked about this in like segments across all the different times you've done the podcast. But when did you start, and like what pulled you into Force of Will? It's just like surface level, what pulled you in, not like the full story. So like, where did you start in the game? Kind of how that happened. Anybody can jump in first.
I started in Curse of the Frozen Casket, was the first set that came out after I started playing. I got my Worlds invite after Battle for Atarakia at Gen Con. So I actually got the very last Worlds invite for 2016 that was available, and I had started playing about a month before that. And so Curse came out, and Worlds was actually my very first GP I ever did, which was a lot of fun. And I did miserably bad at it, but it was great. And I got to meet a bunch of fun people. Got to be on a team with Ryan very shortly. That was after Rebirth, so we don't talk about that one.
Rebirth, Kentober.
Yeah, that's about the only good name that came out of that, isn't it?
That's the only person I remember on Rebirth. Wasn't Vatlin on it too though?
Yeah, Vatlin was on it.
And Jalen, yeah.
Yep. And MacGyver March.
Who are you talking about?
Exactly.
I don't remember.
Don't worry about that one.
Okay, cool.
And then one even more unspeakable name, but that one we actually won't.
Yeah, we won't say that one at all.
Yeah.
Ryan, you got in at Baja format, right?
Yeah, I was living in Louisiana with my father and my brother. Some of you may know him. He's been on the podcast like once. He plays Forcible sometimes. He hit me up. He was playing Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit more aggressively, and he's like, "Hey, I just started playing this card game called Forcible." And we just kind of had gone from Yu-Gi-Oh to we played a little bit of Magic in college. I had started getting into League of Legends and then League of Legends clones. So then he was like, hey, we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Here's this Yu-Gi-Oh! Clone, or like this Magic the Gathering clones. Like, it's really a good game. And I'm like, well, I mean, sure, I'll look into it. And then I checked out the website, and then I saw there was a tournament in Houston, like 2 hours from me, and like 2 weeks from when he told me that he was playing the game. And I'm like, how expensive is it? Like, can I get a deck going? Like, should I go to this tournament? He's like, yeah, if you win, they give you like a flight to Japan. But even like top 8 is like pretty worth it for these prize cards you can sell for like $400. That's showing my age. If prize cards in top 8 are selling for $400. But yeah, the format was like just straight up Baja Blast. I did all this research looking through the top 8s of previous events. I read an interview with Stephanie Shaw, who got second place at Rhode Island and was like just consuming every iota of Forceful content available. And then I built Baja Blast.
Stephanie Shaw is so good. I want to be as good as Stephanie Shaw someday.
It was crazy when I
Brayden.
met her in Houston, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's Steph Shaw." Like, I like,
shit.
She was doing like content that I was reading. Like, I know this person. And then like I saw Matt Cosmo. I'm like, holy shit! Like that's Matt Cosmo.
Shit.
Like these are people that are like good at this game. Like I was like learning this game from them not only a week ago. And I like none of them like knew me, obviously. Like when I like think back on who was at this tournament, like Nick Blandon won, Zach Tufford made top 8, Quinn Katecki made top 8, and like my memories of this tournament include none of them. And it's just like weird for me to think that like these are like the first times I met these people, and I said no idea because I was a random and they were randoms. Moving on, I played Baja Blast. I played it with Black because I'm a genius and he had access to main deck. Flame of the Outer World, and I ended up losing in the final round on the bubble to Anton. And then I got 9th, and it was like a 350-man GP, and I was like, wow, that was freaking amazing. It's crazy how bad my first 6 rounds of opponents were, but then the last 2 were really good, and that was a good tournament, and I'm going to come back. And then I went to Dallas at the early 2016 season and got smoked because I played Moonstones in a aggro split heaven and earth format. Never do that. And then I finally won my first Grand Prix at the next one, which was in Richmond, and was Lancelot. Good old Necrolance.
Good old Necrolance.
That was sort of like, holy shit, I'm good enough to win a tournament in this game. This is great. It's so much fun to play. I still stand by that, like, Necrolance mirrors from when Alice's World was legal is like my favorite mirror match in all of Force of Will. It is like, it is better than Sherry. It is better than Fox. It is more skill intensive than anything. I love that format so much.
Dude, what do you mean? Sherry mirrors are like actually the pinnacle of Force of Will. I would play Sherry mirrors for the rest of time if I could. This is the best time you can ever have at this game.
No, there's so many things to think about. Sherry is like the reactive like skill where Lancelot mirrors are more proactive. Like you have to make those proactive plays, but you're still making plays based on the information of like an unknown grip in your opponent's hand. It could be literally anything, but with Sherry, you're trying to do as little as possible, and with Necrolance, you're trying to do as much as possible. And you're trying to like make boards such that your opponent doesn't have clean answers, and you can actually snowball tempo, and it's super fun. There's no get out of jail free final battle.
I was going to say the Scheherazade thing where like you don't want to go too wide because then you die to final battle, but you want to go just low enough to push them out of final battle range. But then there's like so many
final
answers.
No.
Then, like Evil Genie is the best thing you can do, but it's 3 mana sorcery speed. So like, can you actually ever afford to do that? It is so great. Mirror is just
the time-honored tradition of is this 3 mana card playable in Force of Will? That's yeah, Josh, that's my starting days.
Josh, how about you? When did you get in?
So it's I got in very casually because like TCGs have always been very casual for me. It was just kind of like another Magic outlet. I'd heard of this game that was like Magic and Hearthstone anime style, and I was like that actually sounds pretty good. So I did a pre-release of Twilight Wanderer, and just kind of got hooked from there. It's pretty nice, but like I said, I was playing casually, so like come summertime, like I did golf, did all the sports, whatever, blah blah blah, and then when I came back that winter, like I did for all my trading cards, like it was dead. Something had happened by the time I was gone from Twilight Wanderer TMS to Legacy Lost. And I found out later that it was R&R.
Yeah, I was going to say it's called
it was R&R, and it was rotation. Rotation was like the biggest thing. I didn't realize that like a shit ton of my community was Yu-Gi-Oh, who like hated rotations. And like for me in Magic, I was like, yeah, this is whatever. It's normal. This is fine. And everyone's pissed off that their Cheshire Cats weren't worth any money anymore. And so like everybody stopped. And so then all of a sudden, like I had to switch gears. And so I was trying to rebuild the locals. But then to get my fix, I had to travel. And so that's when I got in Jeremy's DM073 private Discord back when it was private. And I was in like that little group. And then I traveled up to Michigan for a couple of the ARG events. And then my first competitive event was ARG Circuit Series in Indy. It was fairer format, and I didn't know how to play against fair because I was still so casual that I couldn't find random games with people that were playing meta decks. And so before Indy, like I had never had a fair matchup, right?
I think it was you and I think you and I played a little bit for that for you, I think.
I think, yeah, I think I ended up finding out I played one game against JPK. Back, I didn't know who JPK was, but it was some dude with a tag of Slay. And then I ended up playing one with you. But then, like, I went there, copy and pasted ARG's Lumia list from Atlanta, and started out 3-0 in that tournament, and then just got bricked by all three versions of Fair. It was like it was the red green, the blue, I don't remember, the green black, and the green blue one. And it was just like all three of them. I was like, man, I really just don't know how this matchup goes. I was like, but
people that don't know this format, the Bant Fair was a combo deck, Green Black Fair was a mid-range control deck, and Red Black Green Fair was an aggro deck. So like Fair happened to be the best aggro deck, the best combo deck, and the best control deck in the format, which was great.
Yeah,
anyway,
so it's just like, what is your first stone, Fairer? That tells me which Fairer I'm playing against.
So like for me, I absolutely loved I loved Lumia. I loved what she was doing. I loved her flicker effect. So I just copy and pasted that list. But then like little did I know like that tournament was where Joey ended up getting a lot of his recognition for the Mikage list, right? And then so like I didn't realize that tournament our paths had crossed and all that. And so then I was doing the circuit series for a while, did the nationals thing, and then while I was at nationals, I traveled with Patrick Ogrins and we went there and we were hanging out. Oh, Jared, and then on the way back, all of a sudden, that's when I got introduced to Joey, and then we started talking, and then all of a sudden, Rogues Guild happened, and like it was like that, and then my like knowledge of the game went from here to like here. And it was like, okay, now we're in. Now we are absolutely in. I flipping love it. As soon as you understand the game and can really start to get into it and play with people at a level that like you're actually trying to improve and play the best stuff, like it just unlocks everything, right? So
yeah,
then,
for sure.
so like I ended up I got hooked in the competitive because that was my only outlet to play. I still to this day, 3 years later, do not have a local scene. It is only Josh Patton in Fort Wayne, Indiana, playing Force of Will.
Same here.
Not for
I
lack
do not
of
have
trying.
a
Not
locals.
for lack of trying. I would give you that.
Yeah, I
but-
did. But then I ended up getting married, had a kid, and I can't be a competitive player
You hate
and
to
do
see
the
it.
locals and a family.
Yep, I know that life. Yeah, so I'm the oldest in
You
terms
are,
of the
yeah.
Force of Will history for this crowd.
Yeah.
You're a little bit older than me, Josh, but in
Yeah, I
terms
was
of
about to
actual
say, I
age-
think I'm the oldest.
Yeah, but in terms of the OG crowd, I got started in Force of Will when it first came to the States. My card game history was I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, stopped playing it, came back, spent way too much money on it, decided I didn't want to play it anymore, sold everything to play Kaijudo, and then Kaijudo died. And that was how that went.
Yeah.
So then, but through Kaijudo, I had met Matt Cosmore, and so kind of started following some of the stuff that he was doing, and he mentioned when Force of Will was coming around, I started showing posts about it. I was like, hey, I love fairy tales. I absolutely adore it. This seems like a fun card game. I've been missing a card game itch. And then I won a contest that a online retailer was doing, just like a random raffle drawing, for half a case of the first 2 sets. So I got 3 boxes of CFC, 3 boxes of TAT, and then I just started playing from there. Just started playing casually, trying to get some other people into it. My locals picked it up at the time. Started getting into content creation for it, because in my mind, if there's a time to start doing content, it's right when the game is first released, when there's not a bajillion people already established. And I've talked about this before, like breaking into content creation for a game that's well established is nearly impossible because no one's looking for new content providers. So it started off that way. It was myself and Matt Cosmore and Chris Durand on their channel, and then my channel, DMO73. Started playing mainly casually. That was kind of my focus, while they focused on the competitive end. Tried to start doing event coverage. Really enjoyed doing that. And then started to kind of want to get the competitive click going on. Won a couple state championships. Did well at a couple tournaments. Went to a couple GPs. met the ogres through Tyler through Tyler Norris. Joined Ogre because joined Ogre at the invite of Tyler at the command of Epunk. Epunk told Tyler to start forming a team, and Tyler reached out to me to be a part of it. Epunk, for those of you who don't know, is the guy who first created the Alice's World combo deck, the very first one. He's also the Dark Grim promo.
I genuinely wonder how many of our viewers know what Alice World combo is. Like, what percentage of players are like so new that they don't remember like that deck?
Probably a lot, actually.
I think it's a majority. I legitimately think it is a majority.
The Alice's World combo, essentially, the first version of the deck took infinite turns. And it started it out at like turn 3, where it just started taking infinite turns. The new version of the version that we all ended up playing later on took 2 turns and then killed you. Like, it didn't go for it didn't need infinite turns, but the original idea was to take infinite turns. So started doing that, started to compete, qualified for my first world championship in Collinsville, Illinois, at the first GP that I actually it was the first GP I had actually attended was Collinsville, because I couldn't travel to any other ones. Ended up taking 4th place with I played Reflect, Refrain, Necrolance, but I played it with Flame Sprites, which a lot of people weren't doing. Flame Sprite, Demon Flame.
Well, yeah, but say Demon Flame with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Flame Sprite, Demon Flame.
That was like the first tournament with the rotation, the early rotation, right? Where they were like, "Man, Reflect Refrain's a problem. We should keep it in the format, but just get rid of dual stones." And they were like,
"No, we
cool.
still had dual stones. We still had dual stones."
No, Collinsville was. We only had Ruler's Memoria. They rotated because I remember.
Maybe right. You might be right.
Nick Heel,
but that's
why, Nick Heel won that
right.
with Matchstick Girl, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why like the best versions of that deck at the time were the Matchstick Girl, and I think my version that had the Flame Sprites.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, the Flame Sprite was super cool because like the original versions of the deck were like red, blue, black, or red, black, green, and you really had to innovate to like cut some of your off-color cards, and you were just like looking in red for like, okay, what red cards can we even play? And I thought like the Flame Sprite Demon Flame was like super, super cool because it absolutely hosed the mirror for sure.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Every single time that was like a really cool tech for the deck at the time. Yeah.
Every single time I played against a mirror, I was just like, oh, cool, I just win this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what you would do, a lot of people when Reflect Refrain Necrolance was first coming out, Reflect Refrain had this mode to pump up your dude +2/+2, and so the whole idea was to like always just be spamming that to like turn on Lancelot and do all this crazy stuff. But the mirror breaker version was to actually abandon the extra damage for untapping your dudes, because that just got you so much more value and set up like really just steal it. Your opponent's like, oh, I'll put the pump on the Lancelot, and then you go in response, ping it, and then kill it. It's okay, we're done. Like,
yep.
You know, so
push more damage in the air.
So
like,
that was the first
years.
time in any of my card gaming history that I had ever qualified through a tournament was playing at that GP, and so that was when it kind of finally hit me that like, hey, I'm not terrible. I can actually be successful. Went to Worlds. I think at that Worlds I took 21st. So like that to me was also really impressive because there were like 140 people, or I think it was like 130 plus people. So then for me to place in the top 32, I was like, oh wait, okay, this means something. So you
played Mercurius, right? If I remember correctly.
I did play Mercurius that year.
Yeah, that was a good time.
I actually almost I was playing against an Italian, and we talked about our game later, and if I had waited like one more turn to like try to pull off the combo, I actually would have beaten him, and I think I probably would have top 8'd that event. But regardless, I had a ton of fun. It was kind of really establishing of like, hey, I'm not bad. So then I caught the really good bug of wanting to be competitive. Went into the Prisia format, requalified at my last chance tournament in Toronto, played in the Fox event, took
second.
I took second at the qualifying event, and then I took 11th at Worlds that year. I was the highest placing U.S. player outside of top 8 for that tournament.
And it was only Nick in top 8, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so
that was not a good year for America.
Yeah, it was not. So it was like Nick and then me at 11th, and then but then from there, that Worlds marked a big change because of some stuff that was going on behind the scenes, Force of Will related, that I had been involved into, was when I made the switch to doing like full-time GP coverage and all that jazz. And I've never looked back. Like I enjoy going to competitive events, but like really, I love watching other people play this game. Like it's so much fun to like be able to provide that. Although, as everyone in this chat can attest, at the end of a GP day 1 or day 2, I'm like, okay, let's play Force of Will, and no one wants to play with me.
Hey, bring Epic Stories decks. I'll play Epic Stories.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. I'll do that from now on.
Yeah, I definitely feel that drive for commentary more now, where it's like, all right, honestly, like the stress of competition is starting to get to me. Like, God, sleeping the night before Worlds Day 2 is just like, I was up like texting my brother till like 2 a.m. just like, I have to play top 8 of Worlds tomorrow. Like, I have to play against IU in round 1. There's nothing I can do to prepare for this matchup, and my heart is beating out of my chest because. And then top 8 was stressful because I almost lost to IU, and then top 4 was stressful because I'm on stream and this man has like 2 bunnies, and the finals is stressful because I just lose all ability to play Force of Will, and I'm like, all right, I need to talk to Jeremy about this commentary thing because I hate this.
Yeah, it's for sure. Commentary is the perfect spot for the people who just absolutely love this game and want none of the stress of competing, but still want to be at the competitive events. That's my life, and that's what I do.
That's
but
what I want. That's
all
I want
there's still me who still just wants to win all the time and needs to.
Yeah. You got to be the best. Like no one ever was.
See, then it's like you guys say stuff like that, and I'm like, God, I have to play. I can't just let them win things. That's what I do.
Come on, Ryan.
I will just let you all compete.
Two sides of the coin.
Like you could do this though. Like you could either like go out on top or like try to come back and just get like shit stormed in 2020 and then like retire as like a has-been. So it's up to you, man.
My 2019 was insane. Like that's just like a perfect year to retire on. It's just like, God, I won everything. I just like, this is it. I should just leave. And then it's like, those kids are acting up again.
I know, right?
I'm highly incentivized to keep Ryan playing because if Ryan keeps playing, then he'll keep deck building, and if he keeps deck building, he'll keep giving me decks. So I've never actually topped or won a GP with a deck that I've built. I've never built a good deck in my life. I cannot deck build for shit. I can play decks really well, but I can't deck.
He's a pilot. He's a pilot.
I need Ryan and also Aaron to be building decks for me to take and then top GPs with. So,
this is why Brandon lives in the West Coast, because he wants to be on the complete opposite side of the country from us. So there are events that he can go to that we can't, and he's just like, "Oh, look, I won! Look at California, look at Mexico,
California
Washington."
Again.
Like, hold on a second.
My GP wins are California, Mexico, and there's a reason for that.
Oh goodness gracious! So let's go around. So we already know that Brandon's favorite format of all time is Sherry. So I'm just gonna say we can ignore Brandon right now for that. But
that's my favorite mirror. Let's be.
Okay. If your favorite,
what's your favorite format
is
then?
different.
Okay, my favorite format.
Yeah, for like New Frontiers. What over the span of time in New Frontiers since you joined the game, what has been your favorite tournament like format to play in?
So the broad answer is New Frontiers, but the one that I liked the most was probably the first one that me and Josh met at. It was the set after New Valhalla, and there was just a lot of stuff to do. Like Pandas topped it. We were playing Vegas, yeah. And there was a Hanzo deck that was very good. There was a Lucifer deck that was good. Keurig was good. Like there was just a lot of decks that were playable. The Brunhild deck, I think, was maybe the only tier 1 mid-range deck Force of Will has ever had. Like Force of Will has just never had a good mid-range deck, but that Brunhild deck like was just really good and wasn't particularly degenerate in any direction, which I thought was very healthy. But part of the reason I like that so much is because it was the format that I really felt like I could most get new players in on. Like, because like you can't show people Fox format and be like, yeah, come play this game where we're all playing Fox and no one's having fun. And I don't know what we're doing. But with that one, you could be like, yeah, what do you want to play? Aggro, here's Keurig. It's actually pretty fair. You play Control, here's this Lucifer deck. It's actually pretty fair. And here's Brunhild for you people that like white weenies, white mid-range nonsense. So.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to experiment with and rock out on.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan?
I was also kind of thinking about like that era. I really liked Time Spinning Witch as much as I think it was problematic. I thought the mirrors were interesting. It was like a watered down Scheherazade where it was like a draw go format, but you were trying to do like you did have to like bait out your opponent's answers and then like find the right timings to punish them. But you also had proactive plays like Mosasaurus, which were a bit more aggressive than like the win con for like resolving a sorcery speed spell in Sherry was like the 3-mana Djinn, but then in Time Spinning Witch it was like a 4-mana card, so it was actually a bit worse to try and do. I actually like really liked that format, and then it was cool that I got to innovate on it and also like make the Hanzo deck of that format that then like also pushed into the next one. And I really like when formats have multiple innovations. So on that same topic, I like the LEL format, the Golden Days. Where everyone thought Fox was the hot shit, and then it was, oh, actually, Lumia Hook is playable. Also, Val 2 is playable. Also, Feasting Wyvern is still playable, even though we thought Fox killed it. Oh, also, Abdul came out. Here's Val 3.
So LEL format was the healthy Fox because Demonic Dead wasn't out yet.
Correct.
And so,
and like it was before Priscia as well,
Yeah. So
LEL was healthy Fox format.
Pre-Demonic Dead Fox was like just a fine deck, was good, but it wasn't like atrocious.
Yeah, right. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen like Griffin just like sneak back into legality in Wanderer and nothing happened, because Fox without Demonic Dead is actually just like fine. Like you're allowed to play that deck.
It's just like a fair deck. It's
like, I mean, it's like it does some dumb things, but it does them, especially with Lorite existing in Wanderer now, it's a little bit more fair. But yeah, Demonic Dead was really pushed it over the edge. But yeah, it's just those formats where I can't really say like any format now that most formats looking back have been solved are a format I'd want to play today. I think the only thing that would be the Alice's World Necrolance format that I was talking about earlier. But for the most part, I just love it when a format sees life cycles. That's more than just, oh, now no one's playing Lorite, so we'll put Null Page in Sherry. It's actual like full metagame evolutions of here's the best deck. And because this is the best deck, here was this tier 2 deck that beats this best deck, but beats enough of the rest of the field that it's like suddenly the new tier 1, you know? Those are my favorite kind of formats. So LEL and then the Time Spinning Witch for sure.
I agree. Josh, before I get to my thoughts.
It's kind of interesting. My my data pool is so small that like I don't have a favorite one. You know what I mean? Like when I hear people talk, like, so because like Bremont, what he was talking about that tournament was like literally my first, like, I finally had all the resources to be a good player at my hands and I could put it into implementation. So like I have no experience in Sherry. I had no experience in Fair. I had no experience in Fox, Priscia, Alice World. Like, so like all of these like formats, like I've only been in it for like a year and a half. And I wouldn't say that any of them have felt like too different from each other. You know, once you end up figuring out the meta and like playing the top decks, they all just kind of feels very similar. So like I would say I really enjoyed Alter. I enjoyed Alter shenanigans. I think there was a lot of
like set 3 Alter or DBV Alter with like
set 3 Alter. I would say set 3. I mean, DBV was like crazy. That salt pile deck that Steven ended up bringing to that tournament, the Ruler School, that was crazy to try to play mono stones but play like a 5-color deck. Like that was hilarious. But like I would say the set right before that, like when we were playing Brunhild Alter, Hanzo Alter, everything was just kind of, Gil was still a deck, Keurig was still a deck. That was an interesting little world that we were living in there. And that's when I found out that I really liked playing decks that have more options than just playing cards. Like when I can start to do free stuff on the board and I have options that like give me the full power of my deck. Like that's when I like really started to be like, all right, this is an interesting way to play the game. And so even then playing against that as well is also like all of a sudden you're not playing around the 6-card hand, you're playing around the 40-card deck because they can pull anything out, right? So like I remember when I was playing Keurig in Nationals, I ended up just by knowing my opponent's deck, I was able to stack a priority. I was able to stack a chain to where like I didn't overextend on a burn spell. Like, so he was at burn lethal and he had an altar with 3 counters on the field. and just understanding the matchup and everything, I knew that like I just don't act first. And so when my opponent sacked for to go get the Estema to gain some life, I was able to burn him to death in response. And like those for me are like the interactions that like I really strive for. Like those are the ones that I really like take a lot of pride in, because there was a lot of acting work that went involved to that too. I had like a 2-card hand, and like I was like showing a lot of like, I'm pissed, like that I'm dead and I can't finish him off. Like there was a lot going on. And so
Mind
like
games,
I
man.
think, dude, like it was fantastic. But like any format that allows me to do that, which I would say in the last year and a half, I haven't missed that at all yet. There hasn't been a format where I have not been able to use all of my skills to win a game of Force of Will. And until I experience a format that doesn't allow that, I'm going to be very happy with all the formats.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, the two favorite formats come down to either Golden Days or Todd's already mentioned it in the chat of Vlad, but like back in the Vlad era, but like Vlad pre R&R.
Like pre-Bahamut even?
Yeah, like pre-Bahamut even.
Yeah.
So like, and I say this for this reason. LEL was kind of the second coming, like LEL post R&R was kind of the second coming of like decks really being tied, like deck identity really being tied to the ruler.
Yeah.
And like pre R&R was the same kind of era. Like the deck that you were playing was very heavily, like the identity of the deck was very heavily tied to the ruler. And so like back in the day, like I loved experimenting in that format because it was, how can I use my opponent's knowledge of what identity that deck looks like to my advantage. So, and like kind of build it differently. So like I played a base blue Prisia deck that was like a Prisia tempo, which was like nobody was really thinking about that at the time. That wasn't how people were playing Prisia and everything else, and I had a lot of success with it, and it was a lot of fun. But then if I changed rulers to like, you know, playing Vlad, or if I changed rulers to playing like Machina, or if I changed rulers to playing Valentina, like the original Seven Kings, and that kind of stuff, like the decks, you could sit down, see what ruler your opponent was playing, and you knew, there goes Bremont, you knew that it was going to be some kind of, you knew kind of what the identity was going to be, and it was going to be different than if in the last round you had played against a different ruler. So like for me, in both of those formats, the variety that you could experience in a day of Force of Will, in terms of like not only what rulers you were going to be playing against, but also what kinds of decks you were going to be playing against, is what made those formats so exciting for me. I used to walk away from GPs, like even the second time I came to Collinsville, I lost because Frank Klosser happened to play frickin', I couldn't find my second Black Moonbeam. But like, even that day, I think I played in 7 rounds, I played against 6 completely different decks. Like, not just different rulers, but like very different decks. And so for me, at the end of the day, that was a lot of fun because I wasn't bored. And that's, to me, I think, as a content creator, as a commentator, like going in that, the reason why I'm really drawn to those formats is because they weren't boring. Like I could play a whole day of it and it was just fun to watch or play or anything else, which is why like I try really hard to bring that to the streams. Is we try as hard as we can to give you a good variety of stuff. So much so to the fact of, if I have someone I really want to put on stream, but the last round they played against a deck that we just saw, I'm like, nope, I'll come back to you later. Sometimes we get unlucky with that, like Vegas, where we had the first 3 rounds were all Melgus. Like sometimes we just like get low rolled in that way. But like that to me is what makes Force of Will. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit now outside of the rune rulers. Like the identities of the decks is pretty unique based on the identity of the ruler, which is cool for me. It's cool to be back in that. But like we're not quite there because a little bit of like what the decks are trying to do is the same thing, just in a different way. I'll speak to like Machina and Prisia. Like they're kind of trying to do the same thing, just in a little bit different way. And so it's, to me, it's not like quite as unique to watch, but that's just me. But I think like especially Rezard and Arla, like those guys have in the past have had no similarities to one another, and definitely haven't had any similarities to any of the people we have right now. And also, everyone is terrified about Reflect Refrain coming back in some. But like in
I
my
think
mind,
you mean
I'm
excited.
but like excited because I know that we have always had the question of like don't ever count anything out, but I can't even begin to think about if Reflect Refrain is nothing like old Reflect Refrain, even from a color identity standpoint, what is that ruler going to be? Right? And so to me, that gets me very excited. And I think we're starting to see that. And so I think this format we're coming into right now is starting to scratch kind of those same itches. And what I love so much about Force of Will is like you can pick a ruler and like you can find something that you like really enjoy about that ruler, and every ruler is a little bit different. The new Valhalla format, like when it was just like new Valhalla plus like Rhea cluster, was just like everybody's the same. Like it was a lot of like sameness to it. But because everybody was just trying to like, you're trying to do this, but with this ruler, or you're trying to do this, but with this ruler. This way, it's like everybody's a little bit different, and so that to me is a lot more enjoyable. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Final question.
Final answer.
Daily double.
Dang it, Ryan.
Are you guys for or against having Minnesota rescheduled?
I think we have to wait at least a couple weeks, but I think it
think
probably
so?
happens.
I know that flights are already getting canceled for the event. I know Patrick Juan, he booked a flight and it is canceled officially. So I would like to see it pushed back.
Well, to be clear, before we get anyone scared, the Canadian border is closed down, so like that's why Pat's got canceled. But
I
like,
know mine got like changed in terms of the
mine
flight
got
itinerary,
changed too.
but it's
Yeah.
still getting me there. I think that the thing to note is I'm fine with it staying what it is, but I'm also fine with it getting pushed back either way. And I'm fine with that as a content creator because I'll say that I'm fine with it from my position as like taking care of the community, because I try really hard to do that. Because of what everything's going on, I try to keep tabs on like what companies are doing, or like what companies are allowing, or how they're responding to stuff like that. And every travel company I know and every hotel that I know and even like Airbnb and stuff, are all like saying like, you do what you got to do, your money is fine, like you can have all your money back. Like there's a lot of flexibility in what we're seeing. And so for me, I'm not worried if it has to get pushed back that we're going to see lower attendance. So like that to me is like the push for trying to reschedule to push it back a little bit. But then there's the part of me that's like, yeah, I would really want it to have it happen when it happens because I've already got it booked. But I want people to be safe.
So let me lay on you a hypothetical. If it gets pushed back more than a month, are we going to allow the new set? Like
I would imagine.
I mean, if it gets pushed back,
I don't super love. I almost wish that we could like lock in
the format,
and then like even if a new set comes out whenever Minnesota happens, we just play on that one. Only because like I just don't really want to get two sets worth of cards.
That's reasonable. I think like my thing is the current expectations for like the curve as the virus goes is supposed to be peaking in early to mid-May, which is like right when this is supposed to be taking place. So I don't like the idea of doing this when all current projections say that this is going to be actually the worst time to do it. Like originally it was supposed to be like end of April, mid-April, but it's gotten worse because
the other thing
we haven't been
is we can look at this.
So.
Even if there's this idea of so Worlds is in, presumably Worlds is in November, right? So we have a GP for June, we have a GP for July, we have two GPs for June, sorry. We have a GP for July, and we have a GP for August. So June, like later half of June, which is when Collinsville and Collinsville and Toronto are, or Montreal are, middle of July, end of August for Toronto. So like all of those are expected to probably be fine with what projections are looking at right now. So then we could take Minneapolis and, sadly enough as it is, push it back to September. Like just shift it back, which would really suck. It would hurt a lot, but we'd still have time between September and 2 months to Worlds. So it would make it so we don't double up on 1 month, which is, I think, the worst thing that we could do would be to double up GPs in 1 month, because then people have to pick which one they're going to go to. So I think if we're going to push it back, as much as it would suck for Svetlana, you'd kind of have to push it back to like September to be the end of the season instead of the beginning.
Makes sense.
She would potentially have the only tournament that she would have the Worlds format tournament.
She would have the Worlds format tournament if Worlds.
And
I
don't know if Toronto is gonna. I don't know if Toronto is early enough
it's
to
August 23rd. So
that's close. That might be another flipping release weekend. So in my opinion, with it being a release weekend, I'm fine with it not happening on that weekend. 2, I can say that like part of my love for this game and the competitive nature is to be able to travel and to like hang out with the team and with all my friends. And this virus is unlike anything that I've experienced in my life, to where like I feel like if I did that, I would be doing something wrong.
In addition to that,
you know what I mean?
The idea of going to this tournament and then all the bars are closed, the escape rooms are closed. Like you get to hang out at the tournament, and then like what? You just go take 15 people into a hotel lobby, and the hotel clerk looks at you angrily because it's socially irresponsible. Like that's not a very good time, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like,
with the biggest thing I think that's going to impact it is the fact that we just saw the announcement that the precautions have now been advanced to being April 30th, ending April 30th.
Yeah.
And so like that I think is like probably was the nail in the coffin for the event needing to be pushed back. Like,
and some states are, like we've seen, a lot of states are doing complete closure of anything non-essential, and I don't think Michigan or Minnesota has hit that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Michigan has, sorry, but
I live there.
It's like New York, Michigan, and maybe New Jersey.
Doesn't get pushed back, are you guys still going, or do you think it's?
This is where like I have a problem. So like I'm an addict, and I need my invite to Worlds. And so like I will put myself in mortal danger to get that, and I will have a suboptimal experience just to win. Because
okay, so like I completely understand where you're at, but just like for your EV equation, I'm gonna be there one way or the other. So like you're not getting your Worlds invite. So I don't know if that makes any difference to whether
it's kind of like one of those like
this is the most
I think
savage.
You're 0-1 or 0-1 against me. So like
0-1. That's
0-1.
You know that you're also 0-1 against me.
See, that's weird the way that math works. So like I think that means I'm undefeated.
I love
you.
That's wild because I too am undefeated against you.
See, and all these people want to go and be super irresponsible. So now I have to go and just like take names in Swiss so that people aren't even getting to the finals to get my hands down.
Like you definitely am undefeated against you.
Yeah. But like what happened here is he came with the wrong deck. I told him, here's what I'm playing. He's like, well, that's such a good idea. I should play that. And I'm like, wait, no, I needed to borrow your Majin Dark House. He's like, no, these are mine now. It's like, wow, it's crazy that you beat me in the top 4 when you just had the better deck that I wanted to play.
I think that we'll be seeing. I would be very surprised if within the next week we don't hear of the event being pushed back in some way, shape, or form. Not only from Svetlana, but also like from influence of the company, probably like saying like, look, we already saw, because we also saw non-GP events in other countries be pushed back, but a couple days ago, we saw an official GP in France get pushed back, postponed. So like now, official Worlds invite carrying events are being rescheduled, which makes me think that the company is probably talking to reps. And with the fact that we've had this extension of the guidelines till April 30th, I would be very surprised if we don't hear within the next week that it's going to be pushed back. I think, again, the best option would be to shift it back to September. I know that would suck for a lot of people, but I do know that a lot of the flight vouchers, a lot of the flight companies are saying your ticket is good through the end of the year. So, like, it's...
And I mean, let's be real. Like, her October tournament last year had a great turnout.
Yeah.
So, like, we can play end of the year, last chance kind of GPs.
Yeah,
like,
sure. I definitely think that
it's
it's not going to be a big deal to shift it back to then. It just means that we have to wait longer, but it also means that June, which is Collinsville and Montreal, are not set release weekends, and in fact, you will have had about 3 weeks to play with AO3 before that tournament happens.
I do like the idea of pushing it back enough so that we have time to play with the Ghost in the Shell set. I just don't want the other set to come out.
You just don't want AO3 to come out?
I just don't want so many more cards to think about. I like this format so much, and every new set that comes out is a new risk set.
So we're going over time here, but we're making up for the fact that we really didn't have one last week at all. The interesting thing here is
2 hours.
Yeah,
tell my wife.
No, not 2 hours. I'm just gonna close this out. The interesting point is Ghost in the Shell doesn't have, at least in the starter deck, doesn't have Strangers and doesn't have Regalia.
Does it have a rune deck?
It doesn't have a rune deck.
It doesn't have a rune
So
deck.
like this is the first. This is
like
a non-stranger, non-divinity ruler coming out in a cluster that's strangers. So like, I have no idea what that means.
Strength counters.
The weather is rain.
It's just Keurig. It's just Keurig.
It's Keurig's surprise.
It's just the Keurig starter deck.
Keurig's back. You see
No,
that
no,
look
no,
on
no, no,
Ryan's
no.
face?
Grimoire.
Did you just say Grimia?
No, Grimoire.
Oh, Grimoire.
There we go.
Okay, so on that note, we're gonna close it here for tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed being here with us. We certainly enjoyed being able to hang out with you all. It's been good to chat and reminisce and be able to spend this time. We will be working to get a feature match of some kind up this week, we hope, as well as some gauntlet footage as soon as Josh gets me thumbnails.
Sorry.
So Josh has got to get that up. But yeah, we'll be back again next week. Maybe we'll do some like live matches or something with you guys, or we'll see what happens. We want to keep content flowing. We want to help keep your card game itch scratched as best we can. But until then, please stay safe, take care of yourself. And this has been myself, Jeremy Franklin, and I have been joined by Ryan Miles. I'll go to Josh Patton second, and then Brandon Bremont third. And until then, stay safe, stay inside if you can, and class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.
Don't leave your house.